Promulgation of Universal Peace by Abdul Baha Abbas. But the essential ordinances of the Mosaic dispensation remained unchanged. These were the fundamental realities of the knowledge of God and the holy manifestations, the perfections of mortals, the awakening of spiritual susceptibilities, eternal principles in which there is no change or transformation. Briefly, the foundation of the divine religions is one eternal foundation, but the laws for temporary conditions and exigencies are subject to change. Therefore, by adherence to these temporary laws, blindly following and imitating ancestral forms, difference and divergence have arisen among followers of various religions, resulting in disunion, strife, and hatred. Blind imitations and dogmatic observances are conducive to alienation and disagreement. They lead to bloodshed and destruction of the foundations of humanity. Actually, it's the liberal and the reform that have created the most problems, because they're the ones deliberately changing things, not being strict enough to add extras to make sure to follow the principle, but they're the ones, you know. Therefore, the religionists of the world must lay aside these imitations and investigate the essential formations of reality itself, which is not subject to change or transformation. This is the divine means of agreement and unification. The purpose of all the fellow religions is the establishment of the bonds of love and fellowship among men, and the heavenly phenomena of the revealed Word of God are intended to be a source of knowledge and illumination to humanity, so long as man persists in his adherence to ancestral forms and imitation of obsolete ceremonials, denying higher revelations of the divine light in the world. Strife and contention will destroy the purpose of religion and make love and fellowship impossible. Each of the holy manifestations announced the glad tidings of his successor, and each one confirmed the message of his predecessor. Therefore, inasmuch as they were agreed and united in purpose and teaching, it is incumbent upon their followers to be likewise unified in love and spiritual fellowship. In no other way will discord and alienation disappear, and the oneness of the world of humanity established. After we have proved the validity of the manifestations of the Word of God by investigating the divine teachings, we must discover for a certainty whether they have been real educators of mankind. Among the revelators of the law of God was Moses. When he appeared, all the contemporaneous nations rejected him. Notwithstanding this, single and alone, he promulgated the divine teachings and liberated a nation from the lowest conditions of degradation and bondage. The people of Israel were ignorant, lowly, debased in morals, a race of slaves under burdensome oppression. Moses led them out of captivity and brought them to the Holy Land. He educated and disciplined them, established among them foundations of material and divine civilization. Through this education of Moses, these ignorant people attained an advanced degree of power and prestige, culminating in the glory of the reign of Solomon. From the abyss of bereavement and slavery, they were uplifted to the highest plane of progress and civilized nationhood. It is evident, therefore, that Moses was an educator and teacher. The purpose and mission of the holy divine messengers is the training and advancement of humanity, the cultivation of divine fruits in the gardens of human hearts, the reflection of divine effulgence in the mirrors of human souls, the quickening of mental capacity, and the increase of spiritual susceptibilities. When these results and outcomes are witnessed in mankind, the function and mission of the manifestations are unmistakable. Christ, single and alone, without schooling or upward education, and trained to labor in the shops of a carpenter, appeared in the world at a time when the Jewish nation was in the greatest abasement. This radiant youth, without wealth, power of army, or prestige, rescued the Jews who believed on him from tyranny and degradation, and lifted them to the highest plane of development and glory. Peter, his disciple, was a fisherman. Through the power of Christ, he shed light upon all the horizons of the world. Furthermore, various peoples of the Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and Assyrian nations were brought together in unity and agreement. Where warfare and bloodshed had existed, humility and love were manifest, and the foundations of divine religion were established, never to be destroyed. This proves that Christ was a heavenly teacher and educator of the world of humanity. For such evidences are historical and irrefutable, not based upon tradition and circumstantial report. The power of his word, cementing these nations together, is as clear and evident as the sun at midday. There is no need of further demonstration. The proof of the validity of a manifestation of God is the penetration and potency of his word, the cultivation of heavenly attributes in the hearts and lives of his followers, and the bestowal of the divine education upon the world of humanity. This is the absolute proof. The world is a school in which there must be teachers of the Word of God. The evidence of the ability of these teachers is efficient education of the graduating classes. In the early part of the 19th century, by the horizon of Persia, was shrouded in great darkness and ignorance. The people of that country were in cohesion of barbarism. Hatred and bigotry prevailed among the various religions. Bloodshed and hostility were frequent among sects and denominations of belief. There were no evidences of affiliation and unity. Violent prejudices and antagonisms ruled the hearts of men. At such time as this, Baha'u'llah proclaimed that the first principle of his mission and teaching, the oneness of the world of humanity. His second announcement was the investigation of reality. The third was the oneness of the foundations of the divine religions. And the revealed and inspired message of the prophets kind of has a different order. It's about the oneness and transcendence of God, and it's about ethics, and sort of the last thing people got to accept is their mission. Through spiritual education, he led the people out of darkness and ignorance into the clear light of truth, illumined their hearts with the splendor of knowledge, laid a true and universal basis for religious teachings, cultivated the virtues of humanity, conferred spiritual susceptibilities, awakened inner perceptions, and changed the dishonor of prejudiced souls to the highest degree of honor and capacity. Today in Persia and the Orient, you will find the followers of Baha'u'llah united in the closest ties of fellowship and love. They have abandoned religious prejudices and have become as one family. When you enter the meetings, you find Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Zoroastrians, Jews, and representatives of other beliefs present, all conjoined in a wonderful unity without a trace of bigotry or fanaticism, and the light of the oneness of the world of humanity reflected in their faces. Day by day they are advancing, manifesting greater and still greater love for each other. Their faith is fixed upon the unification of mankind, and their highest purpose is the oneness of religious belief. They proclaim to all humanity the sheltering mercy and infinite grace of God. They reach the conciliation of religion with science and reason. They show forth in words and deeds the reality of love for all mankind as the servants of one God and recipients of his universal bounty. These are their thoughts, their beliefs, their guiding principles, their religion. No trace of religious, racial, patriotic, or political prejudice can be found among them, for they are real servants of God, and obedient to his will and command. My highest hope and desire is that the strongest and most indissoluble bond shall be established between the American nation and the people of the Orient. This is my prayer to God. May the day come when through divine and spiritual activity in the human world, the religions shall be reconciled and all races of mankind come together in unity and love. 50 years ago, Baha'u'llah proclaimed the peace of the nations and oneness of the divine religions, addressing his words to all the kings and rulers of the world in specific tablets. Therefore, my supreme desire is the unity of the East and West, universal peace, and the oneness of the world of humanity. Talks Abdul Baha, delivered in Oakland, Palo Alto, San Francisco, and Sacramento. The 7th of October, 1912, talk to Young Men's Christian Association, Japanese Independent Church, Oakland, California. Notes by Biju Straun. It is a great happiness to be here this evening, especially for the reason that the members of this association have come from the region of the Orient. For a long time, I've entertained a desire to meet some of the Japanese friends. That nation has achieved extraordinary progress in a short space of time, a progress and development which have astonished the world, inasmuch as they had advanced in material civilization. They must assuredly possess the capacity for spiritual development. For this reason, I have excessive longing to meet them. Praise be to God. This pleasure is now afforded me, for here in this city I am face to face with the revered group of the Japanese, according, well, wouldn't there be more revered groups of more traditional Chinese groups other than Christians? According to the report, the people of the Japanese nation are not prejudiced. They investigate reality. I don't think it was all that different a century ago. I find them, now, you don't know until you talk to them, but yeah, there seems to be a more prejudiced group. Not so prejudiced when it comes to religion and stuff, but Chinese ethnicity, yeah. But again, individuals. I'm rambling. Wherever they find truth, they prove to be its lovers. They are not attached tenaciously to blind imitations of ancient beliefs and dogmas. Therefore, it is my great desire to discourse with them upon a subject in order that the unity and blending together of the nations of the East and the nations of the West may be furthered and accomplished. In this way, religious, racial, and political prejudice, partisan bias, and sectarianism will be dispelled amongst men. Any kind of prejudice is destructive to the body politic. When we review history from the beginning of human existence in the present age in which we live, it is evident all war and conflict, bloodshed and battle, every form of sedition has been due to some form of prejudice, whether religious, racial, or national, to partisan bias and selfish prejudice of some sort. Even today we witness an upheaval in the Balkans, a war of religious prejudice. Some years ago, when I was living in Rumelia, war broke out among the religious peoples. There was no attitude of justice or equity whatever amongst them. They pillaged the properties of each other, burning each other's homes and houses, slaughtering men and women and children, imagining that such warfare and bloodshed was the means of drawing near to God. This clearly proved that prejudice is a destroyer of the foundations of the world of humanity, whereas religion was meant to be the cause of fellowship and agreement, tying to a source, relationship with God, and creation. Religion must be the cause of love. Religion must be the cause of justice. For the wisdom of the manifestations of God is directed toward the establishing of the bond of a love which is indissoluble. The bonds of which hold together the body politic are not sufficient. These bonds may be mentioned, for instance, the bond of patriotism. This is evidently not a sufficient bond, for how often it happens that people of the same nation wage civil war amongst themselves. The bond of fellowship may be racial, but history proves this is not sufficiently strong, for tremendous wars have broken out between peoples of the same racial lineage. Again, the bond holding men together may be political. How often it happens that the diplomacy of nations makes a treaty of peace one day, and on the morrow a declaration of war. It is historically evident and manifest that these bonds are not self-sufficient. The real bond of integrity is religious in character, for religion indicates the oneness of the world of humanity. Religion serves the world of morality. Religion purifies the hearts. Religion impels men to achieve praiseworthy deeds. Religion becomes the cause of love in human hearts, for religion is a divine foundation, the foundation ever conducive to life. The teachings of God are the source of illumination to the people of the world. Religion is ever constructive, not destructive. The foundation of all the divine religions is one. All are based upon reality. Reality does not admit plurality. Yet Among mankind, there have arisen differences concerning the manifestations of God. Some have been Zoroastrian, some are Buddhist, some Jews, Christians, Muslimin, and so on. This has become a source of divergence, whereas the teachings of the holy souls who founded the divine religions are one in essence and reality. I'm playing the tongue. Muhammad, Zoroaster, and perhaps the others did not want to be considered founders of religions. In the Bible, it has Jesus talking about restoring the law, not doing away with any of it, but to restore the law. All these have served the world of humanity. All have summoned souls to peace and accord. All have promulgated the virtues of humanity. All have guided souls to the attainment of perfections. But among the nations, certain imitations of ancestral forms of worship have arisen. These imitations are not the foundation and essence of divine religions, inasmuch as they differ from the reality and the essential teachings of the manifestations of God. Well, the universe is a manifestation of God. Dissensions have arisen and prejudice has developed. Religious prejudice has become the cause of warfare and battle. If we abandon these time-worn, blind imitations and investigate reality, all of us will be unified. No discord will remain, and antagonism will disappear. All will associate in fellowship. All will enjoy the cordial bonds of friendship. The world of creation will then attain composure. The dark and gloomy clouds of blind imitations and dogmatic variances will be scattered and dispelled. The sun of reality will shine most gloriously. Verily, we should consider the divine prophets as intermediaries. Well, everybody should pray for the sake of their legacy, but don't worship them as intercessors. But mankind has made use of them as causes of dissension and pretext for war and strife. In reality, they were the intermediaries of love and reconciliation. Am-nu-al, as it would be said. The al at the end means that it's not God, but belonging to God. If they were not sources of love and fellowship amongst men, then undoubtedly they were not true, for the divine wisdom and purpose in sending the prophets was the manifestation of love in human hearts. Therefore we must investigate reality. First of all, let us determine whether these prophets were valid or not by using rational proofs and shining arguments, not simply by quoting traditionary evidences, because traditions are divergent and the source of dissension. Among the holy divine manifestations of God was Moses. The sending of the prophets has ever been for the training of humanity. They are the first educators and trainers. If Moses has developed the body politic, there is no doubt that he was a true teacher and educator. This will be proof and evidence that he was a prophet. We shall consider how he was sent to the children of Israel when they were in the abyss of despair. In the lowest degree of ignorance and heedlessness, degraded and under conditions of bondage, Moses rescued these degraded people of Israel from that state of bondage. He raised them from that condition of ignorance, saved them from barbarism, and led them into the Holy Land. He educated them, endowed them with sagacious instincts, and made them worthy and honorable. He civilized them, raised them to a higher plane of existence until they were enabled to establish a national sovereignty. The great kingdom of Solomon. This proves that Moses was a teacher and educator. He had neither army nor dominion. Neither did he possess wealth. It was only through an idealistic power that he cemented them together, proving he was a prophet of God, an educator, and a trainer. Likewise, must we set aside prejudice in considering other divine educators by investigating reality. For instance, let us take Christ. He achieved results greater than Moses. Well, not in the material world. He educated the body politic, trained mighty nations. Again, Pauline Christianity influenced, and we could say the problems of both capitalism and the Crusades and all that came from the Pauline Christianity side. And the tyranny of the kings and all that. There is no doubt whatever that such souls were prophets, for the mission of prophethood is education, and these wondrous souls trained and educated mankind. Christ was a unique personage without helper or assistant. Single and solitary, he arose to train great and mighty nations. The Romans, Greeks, Egyptians, Syrians, Chaldeans, and Assyrians came under his influence. He was able to bind together many nations, melting them together as it were, and pouring them into one mold, changing their enmity into love, war into peace. Under his influence, satanic souls became veritable angels. Tyrannical rulers became just. The human moral standard was raised. This proves that Christ was an educator, a teacher, a trainer of nations. If we deny this, it is not but injustice. Blessed souls, whether Moses, Jesus, Zoroaster, Krishna, Buddha, Confucius, or Muhammad, were the cause of illumination of the world of humanity. The Buddha we talk about, was multiple people. Krishna, again, 4 people. A whole series of Buddhas, by the way. Buddha Yoga, just like Christianity, was like a consolidation. There's no more, so let's have the Buddha. Let's have the Christ. The cause of illumination of the world of humanity. How can we deny such irrefutable proof? Well, the traditions were corrupted, so that's why most people, the people can say the Quran hasn't changed, but the rest of them have changed. But there's enough of a root left in the pre-Quranic stuff that, people should accept on any one of them alone, but throw off the polytheism and stuff like that. How can we be blind to such light? How can we dispute the validity of Christ? This is injustice. This is a denial of reality. Man must be just. We must set aside bias and prejudice. We must abandon the imitations of ancestors and forefathers. We ourselves must investigate the reality and be fair in judgment. The old nation of Persia denied all these facts, harboring the utmost hatred and enmity toward other religious beliefs besides their own. We have investigated reality and found that these holy souls were all sent of God, while sectarianism was a problem. And if you focus on the sectarian issues, the overall peace and art and stuff like that, you kind of miss out on a lot of that. We have investigated reality and found these holy souls were all sent of God. All of them have sacrificed life, endured ordeals and tribulations in order that they might educate us. How can such love be forgotten? The light of Christ is evident. The candle of Buddha is shining. The star of Moses is sparkling. The flame, ignited by Zoroaster, is still burning. How can we deny them? It is injustice. It is a denial of complete evidence. If we forsake imitations, all will become united, and no differences will remain to separate us. If we entertain no prejudice against Muhammad, outwardly the Arabian nation was instrumental in overthrowing the Parsi dominion, the sovereignty of Persia. Therefore, the old Parsi nation manifested the utmost contempt toward the Arabs. But we deal justly and will never abandon the standard of fairness. The Arabians were at the utmost stage of degradation. They were bloodthirsty and barbarous, so savage and degraded that the Arabian father often buried his own daughter alive. Consider how could any barbarism be lower than this. The nation consisted of warring, hostile peoples inhabiting the vast Arabian Peninsula, and their business consisted in fighting and pillaging each other, making captive women and children, killing each other, and of course usury. Are that's too light of that's too heavy a term to make clear the any taking money at interest, blackmail, and all sorts of stuff. Riba. Muhammad appeared among such a people. He educated and unified these barbarous tribes, put an end to their shedding of blood. Through his education, they reached such a degree of civilization that they subdued and governed continents and nations. What a great civilization was established in Spain by the Muslimin. What a marvelous civilization was founded in Morocco by the Moors. What a powerful caliphate or successorship was set up in Baghdad. How much Islam served and furthered the cause of science. Why then should we deny Muhammad? If we deny him, we awaken enmity and hatred. By our prejudice, we become the cause of war and bloodshed. For prejudice was the cause of the tremendous storm which swept through human history for 1,300 years and still continues. Even now, in the Balkans, a commotion is apparent, reflecting it. The Christian people number nearly 300 million, and the Muslimin the same. If you more than the Catholic or the Protestant, the Muslim, but together the Christians still outnumber. Now that things are in the billions. About 3 billion versus 2.3 billion. Of course, the Alawiya and the Baha'i and some other groups that people are going to include. Actually, I think the Baha'i is more generally accepted as not, but the Druze and the Sufis that are polytheistic and the Shia that are polytheistic kick off 500 million. Maybe bring it down to 1.5 billion if you include those who never pray. And the number's probably much smaller if you talk about actual Muslimin, but numbers aren't as important as other things. It is no small task to do away with such numbers, and furthermore, why should they be obliterated? For these are all servants of one God. Let us strive to establish peace between Christians and Muslimin. Is it not better? What is the benefit of war? What is its fruitage? For 1,300 years there has been warfare and hostility. Well, Islam the whole time has tried to stop war on such a spiritual basis. Islam has never allowed fighting anybody just because they were disbelievers. But self-defense, what good result has been forthcoming? Is it not folly? Is God pleased with it? Is Christ pleased? Is Muhammad? It is evident that they are not. The prophets have extolled each other to the utmost. Muhammad declared Christ to be the Spirit of God. Well, again, belonging to God. You got to look at the Semitic language way of speaking. This is an explicit text of the Quran. He declared Christ to be the Word of God. Well, again, every exemplar prophet kind of had that way of speaking. And remember the Gnostic Ophion Logos way. He eulogized the disciples of Christ to the utmost. He bestowed upon Mary, the mother of Christ, the highest praise. Likewise, Christ extolled Moses. He spread broadcast the Old Testament. It wasn't the Old Testament, but the belief in what came to Moses and the other prophets. The Torah, and caused the name of Moses to reach into the east and to the west. The purpose is this, that the prophets themselves have manifested the utmost love toward each other, but the nations who believe and follow them are hostile and antagonistic among themselves. The world was in this condition of darkness when Baha'u'llah appeared upon the Persian horizon. He hoisted the banner of the oneness of the world of humanity. He proclaimed unity and peace. He admonished the Persian nation to investigate reality, announced that religion must be the cause of unity and love, that it must be the means of binding hearts together, the cause of life and illumination. If religion becomes the cause of enmity and bloodshed, then irreligion is to be preferred, for religion is the remedy for every ailment. And if a remedy should become the cause of ailment and difficulty, it is better to abandon it. Today in Persia, you will see the Muslimin, Christians, Zoroastrians, Buddhists assembled together in the same meeting, living in accordance with the teachings of Baha'u'llah, manifesting utmost love and accord. Rancor, hatred, antagonism, and violence have disappeared. They live together as one family. And ye who are the people of the Orient which has ever been the dawning point of light from which the sun of reality has ever shone forth, causing its effulgence upon the west, ye therefore must become the manifestations of lights. Ye must become brilliant lamps. Ye must shine as stars radiating the light of love toward all mankind. May you be the cause of love amongst the nations. Thus may the world become witness that the Orient has ever been the dawning point of illumination, the source of love and reconciliation. Make peace with all the world. Love everybody. Serve everybody. All of the servants of God. God has created all. He provideth for all. He is kind to all. Therefore we must be kind to all. I am greatly pleased with this meeting. I am joyous and happy, for here in these Western religions I find Orientals seeking education who are free from prejudice. May God assist you.